I've been flying the DJI Mini 5 Pro for over a month now, and I have to say, it's probably my favorite drone that DJI has ever come out with, from its image quality to how this thing flies as a mini drone and all the possibilities that are possible, especially with some of the software they've added to this. It is a really great drone, especially if this is going to be your only drone. And if you're not necessarily a professional drone pilot filming on movie sets, but maybe doing YouTube work, doing real estate, stuff like that, I want to give you my experience in today's video on how this drone flies, especially because they are now available to purchase in the US. You can get them from retailers like Amazon and B&H in limited quantities. I'll have links in the description below. They're going in and out of stock pretty quickly, so make sure you keep an eye on it if you want to get one of these at a normal price, because I had to get this at a little bit of a higher price from Korea, and it was great to have. But if you buy them from out of the country, you're not going to have the warranty that comes with these drones. So you do want to buy them from US retailers if you can. That way you have that warranty for a year. In today's video, I'm going to kind of just raw talk to the camera, show you some footage while I'm talking, and talk about how I use this drone and review it the way I use it. Because I don't use every single mode that this drone has. I'm one of those guys who I tend not to even really use the sensors that much. But when it comes to using this drone in 4K 24 in log, using it all the time. When it comes to time lapses, photography, I use it for a lot of that stuff. And a lot of it's for fun and for here on YouTube. I have a Part 107, although I'm not really flying professionally anymore. And that's why the DJI Mini 5 Pro is the perfect drone for me. And if you find yourself flying in a similar way that I do, this review is going to help you a lot. So make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell if this is your first time here and you're interested in seeing more content like this. I cover filmmaking tips, cameras, computers, pretty much any tech that revolves in the life of somebody who creates video content. So let's start off talking about image quality. As I said, I film mostly in 4K 24, and the reason being is I use these drones specifically for establishing shots. I'm typically not chasing cars, boats, whatever it may be, because these drones, especially in high wind, aren't really fast enough for that. When filming establishing shots as well, I'm typically very far away from buildings, whatever it may be, doing cityscapes of Fort Lauderdale. And filming in slow motion really isn't of any benefit to me in those situations, unless you, for whatever reason, are just flying too fast, you need to slow down the footage. I typically find that the footage is kind of slow as it is in 4K 24, and I rather have the maximum bit rate that the drone is capable of to get the highest image quality. So 4K 24, 4K 30, that's where you're going to have the highest image quality in video out of these drones. And the image quality has been fantastic. Freewell was also nice enough to send out some filters. I've been using this straight up polarizer filter, especially when filming the sunrise, and it's been great pulling the colors out of the sky. I'm interested to try one of their gradual ND filters. They didn't send it out, but I saw that they're making one, so I hope to pick one of those up soon. Those will help when filming the sunrise or the sunset, and you've got, crazy exposure in the sky where closer to the ground, it's going to be darker. Maybe you're shooting against the sun, and it will help get better exposure in video. And it's the first time I've actually seen a gradual ND filter for a drone. So it's pretty cool they came out with them for the Mini 5 Pro. For the most part, I'm flying for video, shooting in 4K 24, and I'm either fully piloting the drone or I am using the Waypoint system. But those are really the two things I use when it comes to flying for video. Now, the Waypoint system was a really welcome addition on this drone, because what it does is it saves the angle of the drone, the angle of the gimbal, the tilt, the roll, pretty much everything into the Waypoint data. So I could do these super complicated shots going through downtown, and for the most part, it flies the exact same path. And again, it saves everything, so I could do these cool tilt and roll shots. And then I've also gone back and edited some of the waypoints and been able to change where I had the roll and the tilt after the fact, so I didn't have to go fly those waypoints again. And it's been really great to get these cool sunrise shots in the morning in downtown, get some cool sunset shots on the opposite side of downtown at night. And it's been making me want to fly more because, again, I could fly these super complicated shots over and over again. They're kind of these wide landscape shots of downtown, and I don't have to fly the exact same way. I can just hit the waypoint, start recording, and get going. And that has been fantastic. Now, I don't really use the tracking modes that often because when you're using small little drones like these, they typically can top out at around 30 miles an hour if you're lucky. And that's not always fast enough to track boats, cars, whatever it may be. So that's why I typically just use these for establishing shots. That's where, if you're going to be filming stuff like that, something like an Air 3S or even a Mavic 3, a Mavic 4, it's going to make more sense if you're filming things that go a lot faster. But for my work, since I'm not really doing high-end professional drone work anymore, this is the perfect drone for me. I've also been using photography, mainly pano shots, because I love being able to take those 9x9 images, stitch them together. I've been getting some fantastic shots at sunrise and sunset. And what's cool is when you use auto exposure, because unfortunately auto exposure is really the best way to get the most dynamic range out of this drone. Don't know why they're making you use auto, but you have to. However, when you're using the auto exposure and you're doing panos, it's typically changing the exposure in the high exposure areas and lower exposure areas. So you get a shot like this that is a pano of sunset in downtown, and the buildings aren't as dark as you would see them maybe in the actual drone video, because you can't really do that. You can't change the exposure on the bottom clip, the top clip, where you can in the photos. And that's part of the reason I was mentioning the gradual ND filters earlier, because that's really the only way to kind of get that effect in video. And then the other photo mode I use, which was kind of tied into video, is the time-lapse mode. So I shoot all my time lapses in RAW for two reasons. One, so I could have high-res RAW photos after the time lapse in case it got a cool photo. But on top of that, I can then assemble those RAW photos into a RAW video file and have RAW video time lapses, in addition to the cool little 4K renders that come from this drone. Now, I find that doing the time lapses in post, you will get better colors, especially because you're having the raw photos. So if you're trying to get a more professional looking hyperlapse, time lapse, do it in post. However, if you're just trying to post stuff for social media, the stuff that you can get straight from the drone, it looks pretty decent. It's just the colors are a lot more crunched than if you were able to color grade everything yourself. A minor thing I want to touch on is the SD card slot. So in the old mini drones, you really had to have nails or something like that to take out the SD card, where the cool part about this drone is I notice the SD card sticks out just slightly, so you don't have to have long fingernails to just pop it in. You just push and boom, it's out. Very easy to use, and so I'm happy that this is a super minor change to the Mini 5 Pro that DJI made, making it really easy to take the SD card out. Let's also talk about offloading from the drone. So obviously you could just take the card out, put it in your reader, whatever. If you want to be able to grab the footage from the drone without using an SD card reader, or you want to be able to grab the footage from the internal memory of this drone, which there's a decent amount, and it has saved my butt a few times for getting an SD card. Well, as long as you have the battery that comes with the Mini 5 Pro, that's made for the Mini 5 Pro in here, you can just plug it into a USB cord, plug it into your computer, and your computer will slowly charge the battery and will actually let you offload from the internal storage and the SD card without powering up the drone, which is pretty cool. And I didn't realize that because when I first got the drone, I was powering it up every time to get the footage off of this, because that's what you had to do on the former ones. However, this one, as long as you have the battery that's built in, or that's made for the Mini 5 Pro, it will let you offload without powering it on. Now, if you use a Mini 3 Pro battery or a Mini 4 Pro battery, it will not let you offload the footage from this drone without powering it on. So do keep that in mind. It's one of the minor things that I've noticed. Now, using the Mini 3 batteries, while we're on that subject, it's been pretty decent. I actually have two from my Mini 3 Pro, the one that came with it and an extra one I bought. And although you get less flight time on this drone, I get percentage, I get a decent amount of flight time, and it's been helping because I've actually found I do need 2 to 3 batteries with this, especially on windier days where I have less flight time. It helps at sunrise, sunset. Sometimes I could fly a little bit before sunrise or a little bit before sunset and just get in the air, get the positioning I need, and having the extra batteries helps. So if you have any extra Mini 3 Pro batteries or Mini 4 Pro batteries lying around, they will work in this drone. You can also charge this Mini 5 battery in a Mini 3, and it will actually charge the Mini 5 battery faster in the Mini 3 than the Mini 5 charges it. However, you can't actually use the Mini 5 battery in the Mini 3 Pro. Maybe it'll change in the future with the firmware update, but do notate that. But I think it's funny that the Mini 3 actually has a faster charge rate in its USB-C port than the Mini 5 Pro does. So do keep that in mind. Let's talk about flying this drone. So although this is a mini drone, and whether it's under or over 250 grams, definitely debatable depending on how much you have. I also wonder if when the propellers come out for some third-party companies, if that will bring this thing under 250 grams. Flying this drone has been a better experience than flying the other mini drones. I found this thing can handle itself better in the wind, and being on the beach here in Fort Lauderdale, there are a lot of windy days here on the beach. And what's interesting is on my Mini 3 Pro, on the super windy days, you would have wind warnings nonstop. And I have actually yet to have a wind warning with this drone on windy days. Now, the windy days have definitely impacted the battery life on this for sure. And I've seen, I've gotten less than 20 minutes for sure in battery life on windy days, 20 miles plus. But this thing handles the wind much better. The only thing I've noticed on windy days is when doing time lapses, the wind has affected the time lapse footage, and it makes sense because it's throwing the drone around. But for video on super windy days, this thing has cut through the wind, although maybe going a little bit slower to be able to stabilize itself, really decent. And that's what's made me really happy about this drone. It seems that not only is the image quality better because of the 1-inch sensor, but overall, they just made the drone better than the prior mini drone. This is really the only drone that DJI has made in its mini category that really earns its pro name. So let's talk about filters for a second. So here is a polarizer filter from Freewell, and the way that the filters go on this drone, I like them, and in some ways, I think there's going to be less filters overall available for these drones because of how they clip on. So on the older drones, you could remove the front and then put on your filter. On these, they just clip on to the top and the bottom. They're on very securely, but I don't know if long term we're going to be able to have attachments like anamorphic filters, which I use all the time on my Mini 3 Pro. I think we may be stuck with just having basic filters, which isn't the end of the world. I'd be interested to see if we see anamorphic filters, how companies do it. Because I remember on my DJI Mavic 2 Pro, the anamorphic filter, the way you put it on was weird because of how big it was. You had to turn on the drone and then plop on the filter, and then sometimes it would be out of whack balance-wise. So I never really used those for the Mavic 2 Pro, and I could see that being an issue with this drone because I think this is pretty much the biggest we're going to see a mini drone ever again. Do I think we're going to see versions of this drone beyond the Mini 5 Pro? Absolutely. But I don't see how they're going to be able to get any kind of bigger camera on this drone. I think the 1-inch sensor is where things are going to stay. And I think where we're going to see improvements is pretty much in the 1-inch sensor moving forward on a Mini 6, Mini 7, whatever it may be. I think we may see higher resolution cameras. We may see cameras with better dynamic range, maybe at some point even actual D-Log and not D-Log-M. But I think as far as camera tech and sensor size, I think this Mini 5 is pretty much where we're going to be. This is where mini drones are going to be. I don't see ever being able to get a micro four thirds sensor camera in here. I think this is where we're going to be stuck at. And it's not a bad place to be because 1-inch sensors I have loved for years. This is the camera I've been waiting for in a drone because ever since I had the original Sony ZV-1, and that was my first 1-inch sensor camera, I saw what 1-inch sensors were capable of. Let's talk about low light, because that's one of the cool parts about having a 1-inch sensor, having cleaner low light video and photos. You absolutely get cleaner low light video and photos. And I feel like this drone isn't doing a lot of that magic that the Mini 3 and the Mini 4 did at night. I noticed filming at night, those drones, the footage just looked very smeary. Where when you look at the night footage from the Mini 5 Pro, although it's not as clear as something like a Mavic 3 or a Mavic 4, for the size and the price point that you get this drone in, the nighttime footage is fantastic. Now, I don't fly at night all the time. Flying at night can be tricky, and in some places, the legalities are spotty. But the fact that you can get decent nighttime footage, especially in places that have decent lighting at night, this thing is no slouch. And so overall, I really enjoy the Mini 5 Pro. I eventually will probably start messing with the slow motion at some point. I need something that makes sense to film. Maybe wakeboarding. Maybe I'll go test some wakeboarding and just do a video dedicated to filming in slow-mo on this drone, because it definitely has some great slow-mo options. I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to use them. So if you have any questions, anything you want to see from the Mini 5 Pro, any content you want to see me go over, if you want me to show how to do the waypoints in video, anything like that, let me know in the comments below. And if you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Until next time, my name is Geoff Fagien. Thank you for joining me as always, and I will catch you in the next video.